at last, the first opportunity to go camping with the new Troopcarrier. The camping setup I've got in here is pretty basic. I did say it was basic. The point of this little trip is to get together with Rob from ProCamp Solutions and Heine Climber from Kleiner Automotive, so we can decide on what electrical bits and pieces we will be fitting into the Troopcarrier. Behind me is Heine's camper trailer. So what we're going to install into the Troopcarrier is something between that and that. And the trick is to know how far to go. I'm St Pierre White. Join me as I share my passion for building four-wheel drive trucks and travelling to the remotest parts of the world. These videos are made possible by contributions from Patreons. Join the Patreon family now. But what really interests me about this is the idea of induction cooking. Now, do I want to do induction cooking? I don't know, but what I do want to do with induction cooking is experiment with it. And we're going to start that experiment right now.
Oh, so that's showing now what the battery's doing in there.
Exactly. So we're drawing 120 amps from the battery. It's about 1500 watt. I can crank that up. I mean, I cannot crank that fully because that will overload the inverter, but I mean, that is still...
And that's a 2 kilowatt inverter, yes?
It is, but that is already getting hot, so I think that's all right. I mean, if we max it out, it will do that for a short period of time. I think 150 amp, that's sustainable. I think according to the book, that's something like 1500 or 1400 watt for the plate or something like that. Okay, so far we've used 11% of a 200 amp hour battery. And the water is not really boiling yet. These are the amps we're drawing out of the battery, the wattage it converts to, and these are the consumed amp hours ever since we started boiling the water. And this is how much longer we can go this way before our battery would be empty.
The point of this is to cook a meal to see what happens. How much current is being drawn from the battery, and
how sustainable is it? How much power, how much battery capacity do we need?
Yeah, we know it's really convenient.
Super convenient.
Super convenient. But the idea of having, can we have two stove tops? And with just one, what kind of battery will we need? What kind of inverter will we need? And how easy is it to put the current back once we've taken it out?
Yeah. How big's the battery going to be?
And we're hungry, which is a bonus.
Yeah. So. Cool. We got the spaghetti, so let's make some sort of half-hearted bolognese.
So one third, so we're almost cooked. You still got to do the spices.
Yeah.
1/3 of the battery's gone.
Yeah, 1/3 of the battery is gone.
Of a 200 amp hour battery.
Yeah. Dinner's ready.
Yes.
Yep. I'm having pie.
I think that was quite successful.
The cooking, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's hard to sustain it, but it works really well for what it is.
The mighty have fallen.
So that then has been a huge learning curve for me. That's how much I have to store if I want to cook an evening meal, typical evening meal for 2 or 3 of us. But I think what we're going to do tomorrow morning is we're going to do the same with breakfast, measure it again. It's a different type of cooking. And at the end of it, we'll be able to say, okay, during a typical day, you will need this much current to be carried in the vehicle, and this much inversion power, and you're going to need this much time to replace the current, put it back into the battery when driving. Well, good morning. We're now going to make breakfast, coffee, etc., using nothing but induction cooking, so we can take a few more measurements on how much current we're going to need, and then we're going to sit down and make some decisions.
Alright, we're trying now if we can cook breakfast still without the battery being empty, and I'm gonna try to make shakashuka or shashuka, I don't know what it's called. And we'll put that in there, and it will do this noise. And then I'll also put the tomatoes in there to go. And then the other stuff, and more tomatoes, and eggs, and parsley, and then hopefully we can eat breakfast. I practice, it might work.
We should do a cooking show.
Well, you eat and I cook.
Okay, we're not going to do a cooking show.
Good decision.
$1,273 watts.
That's not too much. I could even crank that up. The 7 is definitely too high. 6 goes alright. I think it's good to know now that I can tell people, if you want to do induction cooking and you want to cook dinner, and then you want to cook breakfast the next day, and you have your fridge running and maybe some other little bits and pieces, you will have to be able to recharge about 200 amp hours throughout the day to make it through the next night. That puts it in perspective what's possible and what isn't. And you do it the Indian way, you shovel it in. Looks a bit like snot. But tastes a lot better. Oh. I think one of the best parts about induction cooking is cleaning. That's pretty much done.
So I've concluded that I want to fit a system suitable for induction cooking. But hold on a minute. Didn't you say 1 year ago this month, in fact, that you deserve to know that I have found my limit when it comes to this electrical system in the vehicle? I left my kettle at home on purpose, and while I find it, I have no problem in dealing with the fact that I now have such a powerful system that I can make myself a really nice cup of coffee with my little coffee machine. I have not descended to boiling water with a $5 electric kettle. So what's changed? To be absolutely honest with you, I don't know. But I do know that there is a part of induction cooking which is incredibly simple, efficient, well, not efficient, but wonderfully practical and fast. But if I only used induction cooking, it would mean that the solar recharge system would be a lot bigger than I planned or want to do with the vehicle. But how about a hybrid system? How about part gas, part induction cooking? Because then I'm getting all of the advantages of gas and all of the advantages of cooking with electricity. So, which means that my original idea of what DC-DC charger that I was going to fit, I've got to look at that. I'm going to need a larger inverter than I had planned. That's okay. But the details of that, I need to sit down with Heine, and I think maybe the best place to do that is in his workshop, because we'll have all of the products there to look at and discuss and come up with a final list of items to fit.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. You are go for TLI, over. Apollo 11, thank you. Roger.
I've been speaking to Heine in great detail about this, and I filmed some of it, but I'm not going to show you it all because I believe it will bore you, because we spoke about all kinds of technical things, and this is what I've ended up with. If I'm going induction cooking, there is a trade. The trade is expense and weight. I was going to fit 2 of these batteries, 200 amp hour capacity. That's not really quite enough for induction cooking. So for a similar amount of space, a little bit more, not much, I can fit 3 of these. These are 100 amp hour each. Output, I think, is maximum output hour for 100 amp hour. 3 of them in parallel gives us a maximum output of 300 amps. Plenty. All right. These, the new ones, maximum output 175. Again, double that. We're well within the ballpark. But now, how do I deliver the current? Inverters. So this is the bit that I am going to share with you. I have a choice of a 3000 watt red arc inverter, or the Victron Multiplus, which is this guy here, which I have to tell you is well over twice the weight. I am familiar with the red arc inverters.
Yes.
I had a 3000 watt inverter. Can you very briefly explain the difference between watts and volt amps?
Okay. Volt amps, if you think about it, there's a good example with a beer glass. If you have a full beer glass and you got foam on top, beer on the bottom, the whole extent of the beer glass is VA, which is usually what inverters are rated. So a 2000 watt inverter is usually 2000 VA inverter. That's including the foam and the beer itself, but only the beer will do something to you. So the beer is the proper wattage. The VA is the beer and the foam. But the foam, that little tiny bit, is your efficiency loss, if that makes sense. So a 2000 watt inverter is really only a 1800 watt inverter, because 2000 is VA, energy going in, 1800 is what is coming out.
So the Victron 3000, is that VA?
That is VA as well. So in
3000 VA,
yeah.
Whereas the red arc would be 3000 watts, which actually would be 2800.
No, it's the same thing. They're all rated under VA. Even it says watt.
They're all rated under VA.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Okay.
So if you find a 2000 watt inverter, it's always a little bit less. You can roughly take 10% off. Same for a 3000 watt inverter throughout the whole range.
Okay.
Pretty much everybody rates their inverters with the energy going into the inverter, but not the energy coming out of the inverter. Another thing that you have to know with inverters is they're all rated at 25-degree ambient temperature.
I was going to ask about that.
That's correct.
Okay.
So as soon as the temperature goes up, the output is being reduced again.
Yes.
So usually as soon as you hit 40 degrees, you can take another 10% out of the output power off of it.
Okay. What is the advantage of taking... I mean, I've got these two inverters. They'll both do the job that I want.
Yeah.
And you said, really, the Victron is, why have you said to me, go the Victron route?
There's more to it. It's not just an inverter. The 3000 watt inverter from Red Arc is just an inverter.
Yeah.
I will take DC, I will make AC out of it, full stop.
Yes.
The Victron unit itself has got an inbuilt transfer switch, so it means you can hook up an external 240 volt power supply, which is called shore power, because it's coming from the boating industry. As soon as you plug that in, your inverter itself turns off and 240 volt is being pushed through to your outlets inside the car. But at the same time, it turns on a 120 amp battery charger because there's a battery charger built into the unit as well.
Oh.
So you plug external power in and straight away it turns on and it charges your batteries as well, which can be quite handy.
It's all built in.
It's all in one.
And they call it the Multi-Plus.
Multi-Plus, correct.
The Multi-Plus,
that one is actually
okay.
Multi-Plus. And there's more to it. If you're dealing with a weak short power supply, let's say for backup situations, not that you do it, but other people do it a lot, they take a small generator with them. Might only be a 1500 watt generator. You plug that in, it's enough to actually turn the unit on and start battery charging. But now you can say I cannot import more than X amount of energy from the shore because I might be dealing with a weak short power supply. So if you then turn something on inside your caravan, camping setup, whatever, where you use more energy, it will not stall the generator. The battery charger will turn off, it will turn back into an inverter in a split second, and will assist the generator, and as soon as the peak load goes over, the inverter turns back into a battery charger, and it will keep the generator on.
So in effect, it's working as an uninterrupted power supply.
It is, yeah, because there's even, when we set it up, there's a configuration program for it. You put a check box for act as a UPS.
That is cheaper than the Red Arc.
It is, yes, but it's got a lot more functionality to it. And it completely integrates with the touch screen.
With the system.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take one of those.
There's only advantages to that.
There's only advantages.
The only disadvantage is it's heavier. It weighs about twice as much.
It's about twice as weight. It is heavier.
Yeah, but it's because that unit has got a peak power where the Red Arc doesn't even come close to. I think they're about 5,600 watt peak power. And they get that from a very big toroidal transformer, which is where all the weight comes from.
All right.
Which also makes it a very, very reliable unit.
Okay. I'm sold. In terms of charging the batteries from the vehicle, DC to DC charger, I was going to fit this guy, the Red Arc BC-DC 40. It's a 40 amp charger with a built-in MPPT solar charger. They're fantastic. Brilliant product. They're made so you can fit them in an engine bay. They're waterproof, water resistant, but they're very, very robust, and I've had them in several vehicles, and they're fantastic. They make a 50 amp version. The 50 amp version I measured could never reach more than about 47 amp charge output, whereas the 40 amp that I had in my green Troopcarrier frequently went over 40 amps charge current. So value for money, get the 40. Don't get the 50. It's not worth it. For an extra, really at the end of the day, 4 or 5, maybe 6 amps at most. For the extra money, not worth it as far as I'm concerned. So I was going to fit a 40. And because it's got an Amp Mppt controller built into it, I wouldn't need a separate charger. However, there's a downside to that, and that is if you have a failure. Now, they're very reliable, they are. But if you have a failure, well, then your entire charge system stops working. You have no means of charging your battery. So the alternative is to go, again, Victron Energy. So let me now show you what I've decided to do. I am going to fit 2 of these. These are the Victron 30 amp DC to DC chargers. 2 of them. One of them is approximately the same weight as the Red Arc. Okay, so now 2 of them. 2 of them will give me 60 amp charge, because if I'm going to be using that much current with my cooking, I need to put it back into the battery as fast as practically possible. Yes, I could put many of these in, okay, but I'm finding a balance here. So 50 is not enough. 60 is good, but it means I need 2 of these. Then, in addition, I will need a separate MPPT controller charger for my solar panels. And it's, again, this one can take a 50 amp charge from solar blankets. I will not be fitting a permanent solar panel on the roof of the Troopcarrier, and I will explain that probably at another time of why I'm not going to do it. All right, I can get a smaller one. This is a 20 amp MPPT controller. I don't think 20 amp is enough, because if I'm going to be using solar blankets, which I am, not really enough. I'm going to need more. Now, how am I going to monitor it? What I was going to do is use this product. It's a battery monitor. It works on a shunt. Very simple, inexpensive. You can monitor it off your phone if you like. Press a few buttons and you get a full picture of your battery system. Wonderful, great. Nothing wrong with that. Victron is donating some of this stuff, and they said, please would you like to fit the full monitoring system? There's no weight penalty, and this is really cool, and that's why I'm going to fit it. But actually, that'd do fine. Really, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I will fit this to monitor it. And all of the items here, with the exception of the inverter, are wired through the Egon DC hub. The charge controllers, the DC-DC controllers, both batteries, car battery, all the lights, all the fridges, everything with a capital E. There you have it. And videos ahead, you'll be able to see us how we wire it up. I'll give you as much detail as I possibly can. I'm not going to be doing, well, I'll do some of the wiring, but most of it I'm going to leave to Heine's crew, because honestly, they're going to do a better job than I will. If you enjoy the video, remember to like it. See you next time. Thank you so much for watching. These videos are made possible by contributions from Patreons. Join our Patreon family now.